Alright, so welcome everyone. In this lesson, we're going to talk about some really important scene elements that everybody needs to know before we get closer enough to the accomplishment of our project. Alright, the purpose that I'm making you understand the importance of the concept that I've already told you in the previous lesson. Now, let's just go ahead first of all with the first element that I can see in front of me is the rock. Alright, a quickly sculpted done rock in the mud box, and what I've did is that I have provided the mantle ray approximation editor over it to get the smooth and the detailed displacement maps. Well, for those who needs a little bit refreshing in the approximation is basically the procedure of the Maya. It calculates the tessellation and helps in getting the better quality achievements of the displacement map and the mesh quality. All right, so guys, we are not focused towards this, but I believe so personally that for you should be knowing what kind of file you are handling. All right, since if you get yourself into the rendering, if you're using this file, just feel free to use this file, no doubt, but you should be knowing the fact what exactly it's carrying. So let me just open up with the attribute editor, and here you can see I have already gone through with the subdivision approximation node, and I have given with the parametric, the one of the most simplest, with the fine on. All right, now next thing I'm going to talk about the skulls. They're also having the approximation editor, but you could slash them down and you can use the normal bumps maps. All right, since we're not going to put the focus on them. Okay, next, one of the most important things is the creature. So let me just first of all wake him up, and yeah, here you can see that this creature that I have used is a simple polygon modeling setup as a very basic low poly modeling. Let me just take a look at that close. Okay, and this creature is basically going to be a very important source of our concept, because this is this creature is the it is the point of focus. The sand will going to get emit from him, the particles will going to get emit from him. So obviously it's really very predictable to know that if we are going to use the fluid as the source of the emission of the sand, this creature will be going to consider as an emitter for the fluid as well as for the particle also. All right, but there is a one problem, not a problem actually, a suggestion. Guys, most of the times what I do, I just instead of going through with all those clumsy or heavy nodes of the skinning or the animations, rigging as and all, and just make sure, please, no offense to the animators and riggers, all right, so just please excuse me. I just want to say that to have the better pipeline, what I should going to do is that let's just cache that out. That's going to be one of the best way out to tackle the FX. So most of the time what I do in my projects, the animation data, the skin data, the rig data, the bone data will going to be get compressed up or get mixed up or get passed on to the another mechanism, which is I call as a cache. So one of the best way to do that thing without any error is that to bake him out, to cache them out with the help of the geometric cache, which is a procedure available in the Maya. For that, you need to go to the animation menu. You just can select the mesh. You do not need to select any bone, nothing. Just select the mesh. Under the geometric cache, just create the create new cache and name it based upon your like I've named it as a creature shape. And the file distribution, I've set that to the one file instead of one file per frame. And of course, the total length of the frames where the start and the end of the animation curve lies between the 1 as to the 130. So what I'm going to do is that I just put the start with the 1 and end with the 130, select the creature and hit the create button. All right. After doing that, what we're going to do, we're going to duplicate this mesh and can hide this one, and I've already did that thing for you under the display layer. As you can see, I've named another layer called creature underscore mesh, and what I'm going to do is that let's say just get rid of those joints as well as the IK handles. All right, and let's just do one thing. Let me switch that on the creature mesh layer, and now this is the mesh which is basically provided with the geometric cache. So the procedure would be to selecting this mesh and go for the import cache and click the creature shape.xml. Okay, So by doing that, you can scrub your timeline, and you can see that now this creature has already received the animation on its vertices and all. Okay, just make sure that you don't make it a freeze transform, because that mistake I did in the previous. So if you're gonna put that thing to the 0, it might give you some error. So just to avoid that, I am not going to use the 0 value over here, which I have to use, but by mistakenly I just completely forgot to do that. All right, so guys, that was a quick review of the scene and the important elements that we have used. Now just very quickly, I'm going to show you to the outliner. It's very important. In the scene file for this tutorial, I have created a scene node, which is basically a group setup that contains all the necessary elements. Okay, and they have been given with very simple names and the connotations, like this is the cliff mesh. That would going to be the base plane, which we're going to tackle up the animations. The particles are going to fall off. The fluid will going to fall and rest upon this base ground, and followed by the creature, which is basically the polygon mesh bind by the smooth skin and bones and all of that. For sure, we're not going to use that thing, but the name will going to be the same. Okay, so in this case, I'm using the creature 1. But for the following files, we're not going to have the 2 meshes. We're going to have only 1 mesh followed by the creature only. Again, followed by some bones, as well as the locators, just to support the reverse chain solvers, IK handles, and you can have things like that. Now the point of focus is that we're going to talk about the fluids. That would be by the name of sand fluid, having the fluid container, which I have hide for a moment. But let's just do one thing. We're gonna let me just open it for you, and you just can take a look at that. So this is basically the fluid container which I am using for this creature to emit the sands and all. Let me just hide that once again, and then coming back to the sand particles as well as the nucleus solver, and the last thing would be the static sand. Okay, so that would going to be the scene setup and the file, and I hope so everybody must have got the idea what we are carrying and what we are supposed to do. Now let's just jump to the next lesson to create the procedure for the sand.